That I don't have makeup on today, guys, but welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to get into a conversation that might sting a little bit, but honestly the truth usually does hurt before it heals. I want to talk about something I've been noticing a lot lately, especially on TikTok, and it's the fact that people love the idea of growth and they love language of healing and love calling themselves self-aware, but very few people are actually changing. And if we're being honest, a lot of people have mistaken awareness for transformation. And they can tell you exactly why they act the way they do. They can name every wound and every trigger and every attachment style. They can explain their trauma in detail. We hear therapy language all the time. But somehow they're still repeating the same patterns and hurting the same people and making the same choices. And they're wondering why their life never changes. So today we're going to talk about why some people never change, why you cannot save people who don't want you to grow or who don't want to grow. There's this song, Paramore did a song, and she was like basically talking about how some people never change. It's true. I don't care what anyone says. Unless they are actually putting in the work to actually change, they don't ever change. We'll go further into that. Sometimes you might be the problem, okay? There's a difference between self-awareness and self-improvement, and healing culture can become self-obsession if you're not careful. So get comfortable, grab your drink. This is one of those girl chats that you need a little. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Joy Serendipity. If you're new here, definitely subscribe. You won't regret it. So we are going to jump right into it. I hope you're prepared. Have a journal or something to take notes. But I think first I will start by talking about how or why I feel some people never change. So yeah, let's start here. Some people do not change because they do not want to, okay? And I know people hate hearing that because we love to believe that if we love them enough, they'll change, or if I explain better, they'll change, or if I support them harder, they'll change, or if I stay patient, you'll end up wasting your time. They'll change. Eventually they'll get it, you know? No. Some people understand exactly what they're doing. They just do not care enough to change it. And their reasons vary for why they don't care to change it. But I think it all goes down to them. They're just comfortable. They're not confused. They're just comfortable. They're comfortable in that dysfunction that they have with you, or, in selfishness that they portray. They're comfortable in emotional immaturity, and they're comfortable in repeating cycles because growth requires discomfort, or they just may be comfortable because they're benefiting from them not changing. Change requires an ego death. It requires accountability. It requires humility. It requires reflection. It requires consistent effort. And many people would rather lose relationships than lose their pride. And that's a long story for a long day, another day. But yeah, so I wanted to start off with that because, that's just the clear-cut answer. Some people don't want to change. They know what they're doing. But here is where you need to take note of why you can't save them. This is especially for my fixer girls. Trust me, I've been there when I was younger and naive. This is for the woman who thinks loving harder will heal broken people. No. This is for the women who confuse nurturing with rescuing. No, you cannot save them. You cannot heal someone who is committed to misunderstanding themselves. You cannot force self-awareness into someone who avoids reflection, okay? You cannot love someone into being emotionally mature. You will waste your time. I've wasted some years for a guy who was just emotionally immature. Looks don't save them. One of the hardest lessons to learn is this. Potential is not reality, okay? A lot of women have this broken bird syndrome where they see a man, he has potential, he just doesn't know he could be this good. He doesn't know the man that he could be. You're right, he doesn't know, okay? Or sometimes he does know and he just chooses not to be because he still has you there. You know what I'm saying? You have to stop dating, loving, befriending, and investing in people based on who they could be. Because, some women stay attached to potential for years. Trust me, I've done that. We're saying, oh, he has so much potential, or they've been through a lot. Guys are saying she's been through a lot. They'll grow eventually. Deep down, they're a good person. Maybe. But if that goodness never translates into behavior, what exactly are you holding on to? You are not a rehabilitation center for those people, okay? What, they come and get fixed by you? They come and learn how to be an actual adult with empathy, and then they go off and be that better adult for someone else? What did you get out of it? A broken heart? Wasted time? Please don't do that. I'm being so honest here, okay? You are not here to drag grown adults toward healing they refuse to do themselves. Okay, stop wasting your time, energy, and energy is a big thing. People love to take good energy from good people and just drain them until they're not useful anymore. Then they're off to the next one. Okay, energy vampires. That hurts a little, but a lot of us needed to hear that because you'll stay with that person that you still see potential in. Okay, so moving on. Self-awareness is not the same as self-improvement. I thought I had privacy, but that didn't occur. We'll continue on from what I was saying, though, because I feel like it is a good message. So back to what I was saying. Self-awareness is not the same as self-improvement. This is where healing culture gets sticky. I honestly feel like a lot of people think being self-aware means you're doing the work, but knowing your issues is not the same as fixing them. Being able to say I have anxious attachment style, or I love self-sabotaging, or those people that say, oh, I push people away and I fear abandonment, I'm avoidant because of trauma. It means nothing if you continue doing it unchecked. Like, there's no point in you spitting that therapy talk if you're not making the effort to change. Awareness without action is actually intellectualized dysfunction. You do not get points for diagnosing your own patterns. If you use the diagnoses as a personality trait instead of growth plan, at some point healing has to move beyond. Like, instead of this is why I am like this, it's like this is why I'm like this, but here's what I'm doing about it, like I said in the last video. Another deep truth that we all need to hear is that, we might be the problem, and that's okay. Sometimes we're gonna get uncomfortable for a moment. Sometimes we aren't just unlucky or surrounded by bad people, or sometimes we are contributing to our suffering. And before y'all click off, because I know we don't like to hear the truth, hear me out. Me telling you the truth is, it's empowerment so you can move forward and do better. If you play a role in your patterns, you can change them. Maybe the reason your relationships keep failing is not because everyone is toxic. Maybe you ignore their red flags, or you chose emotionally unavailable people. Trust me, they're out there. They do like to put them on a performance, but you can really tell. Maybe you confuse chaos for that chemistry, or you self-sabotage healthy connections, and you are the type of person who avoids communication, or you let fear dictate your choices. Recognizing your role does not make you a bad person. It makes you accountable. And accountability is where power lives. The moment you stop seeing yourself as helpless in your own life, you gain the ability to change it. So that was a truth we needed to hear. Hopefully I kept some people on the video. But healing culture has made some people self-obsessed. And we're going to talk about it because it's very controversial. I think healing culture has helped many people, don't get me wrong. But I also think it has made some people insufferably self-absorbed because now everyone is hyper analyzing every emotion and labeling every discomfort as a trauma response, and they're diagnosing every flaw and viewing every inconvenience through a therapeutic lens. Half of those people don't even go to therapy. They just use what they hear on social media and go with the flow. Some of us went to therapy and understand if you have a real therapist, they're going to tell you the truth, even if it's saying that you are the problem. So people have got to stop being consumed with their triggers and their wounds and healing and boundaries and their inner child if they're not going to do the work. They've done that and they stopped considering other people entirely. Not every disagreement is gaslighting. Not every inconvenience is trauma. Not every critique is an attack. Not every emotional discomfort is abuse. Sometimes someone simply disagreed with you. That's okay. You're wrong, or you overreacted, or, your healing journey is not the center of every room. We learn that and we move forward. You're going to end up losing relationships if you continue taking it to the next level. So I would say over identification with wounds keeps you stuck. I have the hiccups, hold on. Okay. One of the biggest traps in healing is making your pain your identity. And we see that, obviously you see it in a lot of celebrity situations, but you can see that in your everyday life. When people over-identify with being anxious or traumatized or misunderstood or, damaged, they stop healing because their wounds becomes the entire self-concept. I'm on the complete opposite scale, which is not good either. There are a lot of people who come up to me, I didn't know you went through everything you went through, because I tend to be a person who pretends it didn't happen or continue on with life without feeling the emotions. That's a different story for a different day. But if your identity is built around being broken and then getting better, it feels like losing yourself. Some people subconsciously cling to that dysfunction because it becomes familiar, and you've gotten your community from it or your personality or an explanation. But healing requires eventually saying, what happens to me matters, but it does not define who I am forever. It should not define who you are forever. So I'm not trying to negate things that you went through. Hold on, someone just texted me. I'm not trying to negate things that you went through, but I want you to keep in mind that at the end of the day, growth is not knowing terminology that a therapist will tell you. It is not posting therapy quotes. It's not being able to explain your trauma and calling yourself self-aware. Growth is actually that changed behavior with better choices, stronger boundaries, and emotional regulation. Also, the accountability and consistency with the change. Some people will never change because they do not want to, discomfort growth requires. Some people will stay exactly where they are and expect everyone else to accommodate to their dysfunction. You know what? Let them. But it's not your job to save people, so they may have to say, adios, exit stage left, right? Your job is not to save yourself from staying too long in places where growth is one-sided. I know that sounds harsh. We all needed to hear it. At the end of the day, I care about you all on my channel. So thanks for listening. If this resonated with you, though, comment below. Awareness means nothing without action, okay? Let me know what's one hard truth you had to accept about growth recently. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next girl chat. Bye, beautifuls.